What is going on, everybody? A new season is here, and with it, it brings Nick Fury into the fold. So I wanted to take a look at the rewards for this season's season pass, as well as go over the new card Nick Fury and talk about some ways that I'm thinking about using him at first glance. Obviously, I don't think I'm going to catch every single possible use case, but it's still something to look forward to. So let's take a look. Oh, that's my collection level. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for season pass. So first things first, you've got Nick Fury, a 5 cost, 7 power, so he's got the Black Bolt stats and cost. On reveal, add 3 random 6 cost cards to your hand. We'll talk a little bit more about him soon. So you've got your pretty typical season pass reward tracks, variants, boosters for the new card. Don't know who that avatar is for. It's an Agent 13 avatar. Okay, should scroll probably two rewards later. So we've got an Agent 13 variant coming on the season pass. Good amount of gold. We got 2 free variants so far. That is an Iron Man profile or avatar. Does that mean we're gonna have an Iron Man variant? We are. It's a pretty nifty variant. It's more kind of artsy, more hand-drawn looking. But yeah, I think it's a pretty solid variant. I don't think it's as good as that gray one where he's kind of shooting his repulsors off to the side. But it's still a solid alternative if you haven't bought that variant. Nick Fury avatar. I think they updated this. Double card art variant? I don't think we used to have 2 in a row. I think this late in the season, this used to be more boosters, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Then you get a Nick Fury variant. I think they cut down on the amount of boosters in the second, or the end part of the path, if I'm not mistaken. I definitely think they beefed this up a little bit. But let's take a look at some cards that I'm planning on using with Nick Fury. I think it's a very interesting card. Only issue being, obviously we've seen Black Bolt doesn't see any play, and he has a similar, the exact same stat line, and a similarly powerful effect, but this card just doesn't make the cut, and I want it to so bad because I love this variant. So the cards that I'm looking for, or looking forward to using with Nick Fury. The main one off the top of my head that I thought of when I saw this was Devil Dinosaur. So if you play Nick Fury on turn 5 or 6, it gives your Devil Dinosaur plus 6 power. This could be a way to make sure that you have close to a full hand, while also not necessarily having to lock yourself into like Moon Girl shenanigans. You could kind of maybe just go back to playing like a Agent 13 Cable Collector Shell with Devil Dinosaur and Nick Fury. Whether that is powerful enough as a whole to win decks, I don't know. Probably not. But you could maybe use it as like a shell and then fill in a couple of supplemental cards as well. Another thing that I was potentially thinking of with Nick Fury, and I kind of just said it, was Collector. So Collector's not as strong as he once was. However, still a pretty decent 2-drop if you're running enough card generation in your deck. So if you're playing the Collector and you play Nick Fury down, that's an easy plus 3 power to Collector. And even if that's, I mean, you don't want that to be it if you're playing Collector in your deck. But if you're playing the Collector and you play Nick Fury, you get plus 3. Collector goes up to a 2/4. Just that one card you played already makes the Collector on the higher end of 2-cost stats. Makes him match Cloak, and Cloak's one of these stronger 2-cost cards in the game right now, to be honest. Another thing you could think of with Nick Fury is kind of just keeping your deck a little lighter, maybe capping out your curve at 5, hoping to play Nick Fury on 5-ish, and then your 6 energy turn can either be a collection of your other maybe cheaper cards, you know, a 2 and a 4, 2 3s, maybe another 5, and then if Nick Fury happened to have generated a 6-cost card that would be a lot better than one of your other plays, you can just use Nick Fury as kind of a curve filler / just giving you other options. Because there's a lot of 6-cost cards that, like, I love playing leader, but he doesn't fit into every deck. But if you can generate a leader and have him as an option, obviously that's incredible. Other things like Arnim Zola, Blue Marvel, I think is another great example of a 6-cost card that on his own probably isn't strong enough to be in a lot of decks. But if you generated him as an option, he might be like a game-winning play sometimes. And I think there's a handful of cards that are kind of like that. A generated Odin could potentially do that for you, although Odin's good enough where you want to run him in your deck a lot of the times. An extra generated Onslaught could be pretty nice. There's a lot of really good things. Honestly, one of the stronger things I think you can do is, not intentionally, you shouldn't just run Heimdall in a non-move deck, but if you're not a move deck, generating a Heimdall and being able to move all your stuff over lanes, obviously you can't play for that. It has to happen organically, but this can be one of those surprise plays that wins you games. So I think there's a fair amount of 6-cost cards. Magneto's probably another great example. I think there's a fair amount of 6-cost cards that if you generate them, they may wind up being decent plays for you to win the game. But I think you'd want to fall back on having some other use for Nick Fury in general and not just using him as a let me see what kind of 6 costs I can roll. You really want to have something else in mind when playing Nick Fury in your deck. Other things you can consider with Nick Fury, you can do something along the lines of, where is he? You'd have to probably find a way to duplicate it with Moon Girl or something like that. But if you're rocking Quinjet, those 6-cost cards would cost 5. There's probably still something else you're going to need to do along the lines of like Magic, Psylocke, Sarah type shenanigans, because you'll need the 1-cost energy reduction. Obviously doesn't let you play 2 6-cost cards on turn 6. It only reduces it down to 5. But if you could find a way to like Magic and or Wave on turn 6 so you get turn 7, and then you'd be able to maybe swing that a bit more as well. Because then your 6 costs would cost 4 from Wave, minus 1 from Quinjet, you'd have 2 of them you could play. This is where like that would be a much more powerful play if Fury was a 4-cost card, because then you could play Quinjet on 1, Fury on 4, then you can play Wave on 5, and then on turn 6 you'd be playing 2 of the 6 costs that you generated. So that might be a case of Nick Fury just kind of costing a bit too much to really have combo potential. But it's still something interesting, and if you can get multiple Quinjets down, you really need like 3 Quinjets to do something crazy, unless you're doing like 2 Quinjets and a Psylocke. I'm sure somebody will figure something out along those lines, but it's not going to be an easy kind of slap it in any deck combo. I think your best bet there is kind of what I mentioned in the collector kind of situation. Maybe you could do like a Beast Collector with Nick Fury on 5 kind of thing. Kind of like take that Beast and Falcon deck and make it less of a purely 1-cost focus deck and maybe more like a mid-range deck. Add Devil Dinosaur into it. Although I'm starting to have concerns with the curve of that deck, just kind of spitballing that off the top of my head. I think overall, power level wise, Nick Fury isn't a super high powered card, but I think he's going to be a lot of fun to play with. It's going to be a card that I definitely mess around with quite a bit, so I will definitely show you guys whatever I come up with in terms of trying to make Nick Fury viable. But those are kind of the main thoughts that I was thinking of. Dinosaur and Collector like him the most, obviously because he's generating 3 cards that didn't start in your deck. Finding a way to use Quinjet. I mean, honestly, Quinjet's not even the worst thing in the world, because then you'd have a random 6 cost, which now costs 5, and you could maybe play a 1 cost on top of it. Not that there's a lot of very powerful 1 costs either, but getting more cards out on turn 6 is never a bad thing. But I think that's along the lines that you're going to be wanting to look at with Fury. Maybe even like a Sarah mixed in if you don't draw Fury. I don't know. There's probably something there that needs some refining. I need to do some testing, and I have a hunch that it's going to just wind up not good enough and maybe not making the cut, but there's a lot of far more creative deck builders than I out there that'll probably find something really nice. But yeah, that's going to be it for now, guys. Let me know what you guys think of the, I think, changes to the pass, or let me know if I was wrong, and let me know what you guys think of Nick Fury and how you're planning on using him and in what decks. But yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.